Hey, what's up, friends? This is Michael Oskam from ProWestRecording.com and ProAudioLessons.com. I am hoping that you guys are doing well. I always start these things the same way. I hope you guys are doing well. I really do. I hope that you are mixing as much as possible, recording as much as possible, getting all of those creative ideas out there, and really honing your craft, because nothing thrills me more than to hear feedback from you guys and hear mixes you guys have done, and you know, I'm just so pleased that my advice is being taken seriously, and it's really noticeable in your mixes. So thank you for that. Please don't ever hesitate to write me, email me, michael@prowestrecording.com, and any questions you may have, any ideas for videos you may have. I'm not promising you I'll make the video that you request, but if it's something that I feel needs to be addressed, because it seems to be a question that a lot of people have, then yeah, I'll happily make a video. And as always, I offer private video lessons too, so don't be afraid or shy. Those are really worth the time and the money. So as far as a free lesson goes, today I wanted to kind of go into the difference between multiband compression and EQ. Okay, now they don't sound similar, right? But they actually are similar and can be used in very similar circumstances, but for different effects. Let's put it that way. Now, most of you know, if you've watched my videos or talked to me in any way, that I am a big fan and advocate of subtractive equalization. Doesn't mean I don't do additive EQ, but I think that more is gained from subtractive. So in my vocal chain video, I mentioned that I'll melodyne the track, and then before compression, I'll put in an EQ, and I will remove problem frequencies or areas that have too much buildup or whatever, and then compress, right? And then afterwards, I usually have another EQ, and that's where I may give some, add some frequencies, boost some things here and there. So that's all fine and well. Well, let's throw multiband compression into the mix for a second. For those of you who are unaware what multiband compression is, let me pull up one, and this is just one. There's quite a few of them on the market. Waves makes a few. This is the C4 from Waves. It may look familiar to some of you guys. The C6, which I don't have a license for, but that's okay because I don't use that one. I have used it, but it's not my go-to. My go-to for multiband is the FabFilter Pro MB. And this, if you have any of their other plugins, specifically the Pro Q2, you'll notice that this interface is identical. In fact, let me pull up. Here's Pro Q2. I mean, they're slightly different colors, but the idea is the same. Okay. So let's take a listen. First, let me let you guys take a sneak peek at a new song that I have that will be on my upcoming album, Emotive, which should be out in August. This is going to be one of the singles off of that album. And let me play it just the beginning for you. We're going to be talking about the vocal, but I'll give you a taste of what this is all about.
Of the girls in the past, I told that I love. It's you who I find I'm still dreaming of, and I don't know if your dreams are still filled with me.
Alright, and CPU overloads are always awesome when I'm doing tutorials, so that's cool. But you get the idea. It's kind of a pop rock song, right? That's kind of my style. It's kind of what I do. Now, let's take a look at my chain here. I have Melodyne for some slight tuning and some harmonies a little bit later in the song. Then I have a Pro Q2. Oops. and that's doing mostly subtractive, but a little bit of additive here. You'll notice that I'm rolling off everything below 100 essentially, and then I'm cutting it around 230, quite a bit, almost 9 dB, with a medium size Q. Boosting a little bit, only a little over 2 dB at 600, and then subtracting around 2 dB at 2K, and then giving it some air up top with 2K, or excuse me, 2 dB, 2.5 dB of almost 9K. So let me show you. I'm basically going to walk you through this chain. There's a lot of compression and a lot of EQ going on here. That doesn't mean that it's being overcompressed necessarily, but I'm doing it in multiple stages. And I'm also EQing in multiple stages. A lot of this, I know you guys have written to me that my videos have helped you so much. And you've also mentioned some other people out there who have helped you, people like Dave Pensado. I have watched probably every episode of Into the Lair. Highly recommend his channel. Maybe not for super beginners, because he talks about things as if you already know what he's talking about. So basically, he's talking to people on a professional level, and he expects you to know that. So if you're new to the game and you're watching his stuff and you're not grasping what it is he's talking about, don't worry. But maybe start with some more simplistic videos. The reason I bring it up is because he mentions something that I had been doing for a while, and I know everyone else who's figured it out does this too, and that is not letting one plugin do too much work. So he's a big advocate of stacking compressors. Let one compressor do a little bit, and then the next one do a little bit more, and that way you have more control. You're not demanding too much from just one instance of one plugin. I apply that to EQ as well. So let's take a look. This is the Pro Q2. As I just mentioned, mostly subtractive, a little bit of boosting. Let's just I'm gonna keep the limiter on, but everything else is gone. Let's take a listen to this in bypass.
Another girls in the past I told that I loved. It's you who I find I'm still dreaming of, and I don't know if your dreams.
You hear that difference when I kicked it on? Here, I'll start with it on and then I'll take it out.
Another girls in the past I told that I loved. It's you who I find I'm still.
A lot of that like kind of woofiness and low end, obviously I'm cutting here, and it really cleans it up and it makes it more present. On its own, it may sound actually to some people like it's a little thin. And what you always have to remember is something that sounds a particular way in solo may not be what it sounds like in the mix. So always, I had a great professor in college for audio engineering, probably one of my favorites, one of my Pro Tools teachers, and he always said, you got to listen to it in the sauce. And that's what he called it, in the sauce. So that means in the mix. You can't get a really good idea of what's going on unless you have the surrounding accompaniment to go with it. So, like I said, this may sound thin on its own, but I assure you, when it's in the mix, it's not. Let's take a look at my next plugin, and I'm using Nectar for mainly my wet type effects, like my delay and my reverb and stuff like that. But there is an EQ curve in here, and as you can see, it's subtractive. And again, I'm cutting out a lot of this. It's a little bit redundant because a lot of these frequencies already don't exist due to the first instance. So let's take a listen.
Another girls in the past I told that I loved.
Okay. When I kick it on, you'll also notice the delay and reverb coming with it. I'm running. Nectar is a plugin that you run in line. You've seen videos where I'm advocating using send and return. I stand by that still. But this particular plugin needs to be run in line. So let's take a listen.
Another girls in the past I told that I love. It's you who I find.
Okay. And then I have Pro MB. Okay. And This instance is clean, but the one I actually had on there was this, and this may look a little silly to you guys. You're like, well, why don't you just EQ that or turn it down? Quick explanation of multiband compression. It's basically what it sounds like. It's a compressor that allows you to control which frequencies you would like to compress and how much, which is great. It's great. And this is a really good plugin to do it. Now, why would you, now you can use this for all sorts of things. You can use this on drum mixes to get punch and et cetera, et cetera. But on a vocal take, the way that I'm using it is almost as a 1-2 punch, so to speak, with my EQs, okay? The reason being, when you sing, or when you capture a vocal, chances are there's going to be a big range that you're dealing with. There's going to be a range in dynamics, so volume. Maybe the person will be singing quiet at one point, loud at another, and everything in between. In addition, they're not going to be singing the same note at all times, right? And we all know that frequencies are numerical values assigned to pitches, and that all notes that we sing are comprised of these pitches or harmonic content. So the whole range in which the singer is singing is going to react differently, okay, and sound differently. So if, for example, this song, whenever I'm singing a lower note, the male timbre of my voice, the lower register, it resonates a little too hard, okay? Now, most people, what they'll do then is they'll open a EQ, right? And they will sweep. I'm just going to create a new band here just for the sake of this, right? And they will play back and sweep and try to find out which frequency is causing that low buildup. So let's see if we can figure it out.
I love, it's you who I find. I'm still dreaming of.
That's where it is. It's at around 250, and that's why I have this cut in here. Now this cut may be a bit much. Let me get rid of some of it. But here's the idea, guys. I don't always want this range to be taken out of the vocal performance. In fact, that's what gives this song, or gives my particular vocal, its sound, are the frequencies that my voice generates when I sing. Now obviously there's a lot of variables, the microphone, the preamp, all that kind of stuff. But if I were to just cut out 230 to 250 hertz, that whole range for the entire performance, then I would lose the low end on particular phrases where I would want low end. Okay, so before people really started to adopt this multi-band idea, what they would literally do is, and you can do this for all instruments, bass, this is popular in bass lines too, because the bass player will be playing his part, and then there's one particular note that he hits that just wah, it just squawks and it resonates really hard. So what people started doing is they started automating EQs to bypass and unbypass just for that note, just at that frequency. That's certainly a way to do it, but that is kind of a pain in the ass, and it's going to take you a while. So why not use a multi-band compressor to only compress when that particular frequency is standing out or sticking out or being obnoxious? Wouldn't that make life so much easier for you? Let me show you how to do it. Let me get rid of this band. So we know that this particular frequency range is a little bit tough. So let's not cut it, okay? And let's take a listen.
Another girls in the past I told that I love.
Also down here. So we can actually cut it right at about 200 and just kind of spread the Q out. But watch, it'll get rid of that problem, but my vocal's going to lose a little bit of its character.
Another girls in the past I told that I love, it's you.
And again, like I said earlier, to some of you that may sound a little thin, and you may not be wrong. So what I do is I use a multi-band compressor. Let's apply this thought process, okay? Let's put in a band at around 200, okay? And then this will actually allow me to determine the width of the band. And then let's throw some compression. Now what you'll see is you're going to see it physically working here. It's going to compress just like a normal compressor would as soon as that threshold is crossed at the set threshold here in this particular frequency range. Okay, let's take a listen and a look at what it does.
Another girls in the past I told that I love, it's you who I find I'm still dreaming of, and I don't know if your dream.
Now, as I was initially going to do, it's more around 250 where the problem is. So let's center in on that frequency a little bit more. Maybe narrow this up a little bit. And let's see how much we want to compress that.
Another girl.
In fact, I'll bypass this EQ.
Another girls in the past I told that I love, it's you who I find I'm still dreaming of, and I don't know if your dream.
This is a lifesaver, you guys. What a difference. Now, when you put the two together, and then I also have a post compressor LA2A going on. Let's take a listen.
Another girls in the past I told that I love, it's you who I find.
Okay. Now, when I add this compression, this is another technique that I'm going to do another video on, but I'll touch on it right now. This is the first song I've ever done this. I've mixed countless amount of songs. This is the first time I've ever tried this technique, where I'm actually making it sound bad on purpose. I'm pushing a lot of frequencies up top, and I recorded it with that frequency curve because I wanted a really bright recording. I wanted it to sound bright. So in addition to recording it and capturing it bright, I also now have these bass reduction techniques, and I'm boosting a little bit of high end, right? And with the addition of compressors, the LA2A in particular, we're getting a little bit of sibilance. So you'll notice next I'm stacking de-essers. And this is pretty cool. Toy with this, okay? Again, I said I'm going to do a video on it separately. But try boosting a lot of frequencies, okay, to the point where it sounds bad. And then subtracting the ones that sound really bad, leaving the good ones. I'll explain later. But let's take a listen.
Another girls in the past I told that I love, it's you who I find I'm still dreaming of, and I don't know if your dreams.
To me, that just levels the whole thing out. Now, to those of you who say, well, Michael, I've never used a multi-band compressor, I ask you this. Have you ever de-essed? Have you ever used a de-esser? Because de-esser is essentially the same thing. It's a compressor that focuses on a set frequency, right? Let's take a look at Renaissance de-esser here. This is a compressor that reacts to 4700 hertz, as I've set.
Another girls in the past.
Now, the difference with a de-esser is you can actually determine what type. So you could have a wide band, and what that means is it's going to compress the entire frequency range. As you can see, that's what this purple denotates, whatever that word is. Okay, but the only thing that's going to cause it to compress are the frequencies that you're centered on. Okay, does that make sense? So the frequencies that are kind of building up, the S's, all that, around 4700 are going to cause the compressor to react, but when it reacts, it's going to compress the entire frequency range. Okay. Then there's obviously split, which is focused more on just the frequencies we're talking about. A multi-band compressor is the same idea. Now I'm going to bring back up the band that I actually the setting that I actually had in here for the mix. And you'll notice that there's a lot of bands going on, all kind of at different ranges with different thresholds and with different attack and release settings. There's attack and release, guys. Each one of these bands has its own attack and release settings. So let's take a listen. And I'm going to listen to it in the sauce.
Another girls in the past told that I love you, who I find I'm still dreaming of, and I don't know if your dreams are still filled with me, my thoughts of every day.
Now, it doesn't sound that bad when it's bypassed, right? But do you notice the low end build up on some notes and some words that I'm singing, that it just kind of sticks out? It almost sounds kind of muffled, and you know what I mean? Watch what happens when I kick on the multi-band compressor.
Another girls in the past told that I love you, who I find I'm still dreaming of, and I don't know.
Just like that, the vocal is clear, present, and sits right on top of the mix. I strongly recommend this technique on vocals. I strongly recommend it on bass. It's a great substitute. I shouldn't say substitute, that's not the right word. It's a great tool to have to use side by side with EQ. I think the two need to work kind of hand in hand. I'm going to play out the rest of the song. I hope this cleared up a few things. I really hope you guys take a look into multi-band compression. I'm going to do some more videos on it in the future because there's a whole lot more to cover, but I just wanted to give you guys the basic idea, because I know that maybe you've heard in certain videos or books or whatever it is you may be researching to get better mixes, people talk about multi-band compression and specifically using it as a EQ replacement. So now you know what they're talking about and how to attain good results. I'm going to play this out, and again, this is a song called Haunt My Dreams, which will be out on my album Emotive, which comes out in August, so stick around for that. Have a good night. Enjoy this song.
Another girls in the past told that I love you, who I find I'm still dreaming of, and I don't know if your dreams are still filled with me, my thoughts of every day. You wish that we would be